Space whales? Nope, rather deal with devils. Chapter 66, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Holding the letter directed towards myself. I for a moment thought about just tearing it apart at the thought of getting a letter from Riser of all people. But knowing that was immature, I slowly opened the letter and began reading it. Hello Jake Barris. I hope this letter of inquiry finds you in good health, and that your great battle with the late traitor Genbu has not left you with any after effects of said engagement beyond the glory of a human managing such a feat. In appreciation of your accomplishment, I, Ravel Phenex, in accordance with the old ways, offer thus. I offer you a contract. Enclosed within this letter is a summoning circle, should you be willing, and Erisitri giving you no issues. I wish also to have you as my contracted magician to be used in matters of magical importance and, of course, raiding games. I Ravel Phenex hope this letter finds you well, and that your glory blazes through history with your name becoming immortal. The letter is from Ravel Phenex, not Riser himself. I've probably been drinking the Fanon juice too much with how I automatically jumped to hating Riser, honestly, but I thought as I considered the letter and its implications. The letter is twofold in its approach. First, it's a congratulatory letter, but then there is the raiding game bit. Is she trying to make sure I don't make a contract with Rias Gremory and mess with the engagement? I wondered. And so I decided to get Sona's thoughts on this. Sona here, go ahead and read this. I think the Phoenixes are scared I will make a contract with Rias and mess with the engagement she has with Riser. After quickly reading the letter, she gave a slight hum of thought before she spoke blandly. Indeed. The vast majority of magicians are stuck in their laboratories and books, utterly refusing to take part in raiding games, hence why you rarely see them, to say nothing of how they aren't combat inclined to begin with. Sona brushed a hand across her face before she said with a small frown. Politics. Serafal obviously saw this letter coming here, and the bribe to the Citri hospitals, so her hands are also tied. But yes, the Phoenixes, or at least Ravel is trying to make sure that you don't kill Riser in a straight fight by tying you up and making you incapable of fighting in a raiding game between the two of them. If I became the contracted magician of Ravel Phenex, I certainly couldn't go and fight her for Rias Gremory, who made a contract later than hers. So that left two options with some tidbits. First, I signed a contract with Rias as soon as possible to get ahead of the Phenex to keep them off their game. Second, I signed the contract with Ravel, as getting access to the Phenex regeneration would be fucking amazing, to say the least. As for me, a baseline human with only Aqua's divine blessing? Yeah, instant regeneration via magical power could make me far more dangerous. But there was just one little issue. I really didn't want to make Surzex angry with me for obvious reasons. I would very much prefer to be on his good side, as he was legitimately a good dude to those he considered his friends. I held the decently sized gem-encrusted coin embossed with the Phenex magical glyph, and I squeezed it slightly as I considered things hard. As this world was kinda off the rails technically with the shit I had changed. Issei was fucking dead with how he tried to fight Rainier with zero combat training and took a light spear to the throat when saving Asia. As was Genshiro Saji dead, with how Sona missed him when she was recruiting me. Also, I think that's how Issei died, as Rainier with Saji's sacred gear kept him down enough for her to stake him. So I needed to get ahead on this world shit with how I changed a good amount of stuff. Sona, I am going to summon Ravel, I spoke. Sona raised an eyebrow before she spoke slowly as Tsubaki gave me a hard look. Jake, when Surzex gets a report of Ravel teleporting into Kuo, there will be some misconceptions regardless of what happens unless you humiliate Ravel, which will have its own issues. I shook my head and, looking at Sona through her glinting glasses, I said bluntly. These political games bore me, Sona. I will be meeting Ravel, and then I will make a contract with her if she wants, but I will also make a contract with Rias if she gets off her ass to make a date for a meeting. There was a moment of silence before Sona shook her head and said. Finn, no. Jake, come with me. I am going to smack some sense into Rias to get her head out of her ass right now. I owe her at least this, with how a Longinus user died on her. when I should have helped her deal with the fallen. I didn't know she felt guilty about Issei and Saji's deaths, but there were students here, I guess. I thought as I followed Sona across the school grounds, as we went to the old school building that Rias had taken over for her ORC activities. I saw Sona make a magical glyph, and a couple of seconds later, she held it against her ear, and I smiled at realizing it was a phone, basically with Sona saying, "Rias, I am coming up with Jake now. Yes, now, things are moving beyond your control, so get ready for him." There was a pause, and I saw Sona almost miss a step before she hissed out, "Then get the hell out of the shower and use magic to dry your hair and put on your clothes. Don't have Akino pamper you for half an hour drying and combing your hair, Rias." Sona snapped before she crushed the magical glyph with a huff, escaping her. "Come on, let's speed up. I want to put her on the back foot," Sona said with a lower voice and an evil snicker escaping her as we began power walking through the old school building, as we headed up the stairs toward the main ORC rooms. We came up to the top floor and our steps rang out as we power walked down a hall, and once we reached the double door at the end, Sona promptly knocked on the door 3 times. And then spun around and kicked the door in with a loud crashing noise, with her coming out of the spin with her arms coming around her chest, and her putting on an unamused expression as she strode into the room. "Sona. What the hell?" Rias's voice reached us, and as I followed the Citri heiress into the room, my lips twitched as I saw Rias and Akino were both in states of undress, with Rias wearing her lingerie, and a wet, see-through dress shirt that clung to her skin, as Akino was also trying to pull up a skirt while she was in a similar dress state of only wearing her provocative underwear. "Bah, don't give me that Sona nonsense, get dressed now. Jake needs to make a contract with you now as the Phoenixes are making a move to snag him as their own." Sona snapped out at Rias, whose mouth opened and closed as she processed those thoughts. And then her eyes snapped to me. And she raised an eyebrow as I wordlessly met her gaze. Trying not to be a complete asshole and stare at their relative nudity even if I knew Rias and Akino didn't care about such things with how Rias was a casual nudist of a sort. But then I saw the thoughts connect in Rias's mind, and she grimaced in realization as she placed a hand on her face and cursed. "Father. He is fucking moving up my engagement, isn't he? That's why the Phoenixes want Jake off the board." I nodded and said bluntly, "I can easily kill or defeat the Phoenix clan with my skill set. To say nothing of how I can call upon divine holy energy foreign to the Abrahamic God, but I am the worst matchup for a Phoenix." Rias bit her lips, and then she looked at Akino, who was casually zipping up her short skirt, and said, "Thank you for bringing this to me, Sona. Just give me and my queen a second to get dressed, and we can discuss a contract." To Rias's words, Sona gave a stiff nod before she said bluntly, "Good, you owe me a favor for doing this as being the holder of the letter Jake got from the Phoenix clan. I will still be getting splashed should the Phoenixes throw a fit. And Jake, should anyone ask, you already formed the contract before we met today, you understand?" I gave a grunt of agreement, and Sona gave me a small smile before she took a breath and shook her head. And then left the room without another word, leaving me in the room with the still half-naked Rias Gremory and Akino Himejima. Oh fucking joy.